Welcome. I'm Rob. I'm going to talk about different survival foods and different companies. Now, I'm not associated with them, so I'm not getting anything from it, any kickbacks or nothing. It's just over the years of prepping and uh, this is different companies I dealt with and different things. Got a different perspective on some other things I might not have seen before. One of them is SOS products. That's SOS Survival Products, Emergency Preparedness Kits. I'll repeat it again. SOS Products, Survival Products, Emergency Preparedness Kits, SOS. All right, what they got like these different bars and stuff you can get. See, these are just some of them. Different energy bars they've got, you know, different kinds, you know. Now, that company there is kind of high end, in my opinion, and they don't really give you a break on shipping and stuff. But most companies don't anymore nowadays, anyways. But if you wanted something different, to add in your collection as a prepper, there you go. You got different bars you can get. You can check the shelf life on them. You can read about it all by yourself. They do have other products as well, but those was the main things I went after. I did get some other food bars. There's different kind ones. It's kind of like another one I'll be showing here in a minute. But they do have a lot of water filtrations, a lot of stuff for other companies like like you get a chance to check it out. They got quite a bit of stuff there. But they got water purification, everything. So that's a company. Like I said, it's just something different. If you want to add some of these food bars, your prep supplies, and something different. You're gonna get tired of eating the same stuff. Okay, now I'm over to the next one, which everybody's heard about. For Patriots, by Patriot Supply. Uh, anyways, For Patriots is one of the websites, but My Patriot Supply is the other one. They got discounts and stuff like that on For Patriots. They give you, and you go to My Patriot Supply. Now, there's different things you can look at. You have like the shots. You get the shots. Survival shots. Now, the good about them things would be if you had to, you just grab them and run with them. Survival shots, or you could just instead of like eating 7 days, in a row. If one day you're gonna rest, relax, just take a flower shot that day and save the food that day. You know what I mean? So if you did that, you know, once every other week or something like that, you would have 7 more days of food. You know. And then the other thing about survival food, most people ain't telling you, unless you research and look into it. When they tell you got 6 months worth of survival food, that's based off the serving size. You know what I mean? And when you buy this stuff, Patriot Supply stuff, they say it's 6 months worth. Well, that's if you're eating it. You know, nobody does serving size. Unless you're a child, a kid. So it says 6 months. You really got 3 months. You know, if they say a month, you really got 2 weeks. Yes, you could do the serving size and survive, but you're slowly, degrading yourself, and you're not getting all the nutrition and stuff like that. And you're slowly going to be weakening yourself, starving yourself. Is what you're doing slowly. Over time, you're going to get tired and wore out easier and barely able to move. Kind of like in the movies, they're all skinny and bones, and, still there, but they're all skin and bones. But anyways, so if you wanted to eat like you normally do, which most people do, nobody says 4 or 5 servings. Well, you sit down and eat the whole serving yourself. You know what I mean? I mean, granted, if things are bad, you're not gonna gorge like that, but still, you're not gonna just have a little cup of nuts. You know what I mean? That ain't gonna go. That ain't gonna happen. You're gonna probably have a couple of cups of nuts. You know what I mean? And then you're good. So the way to look at it though, if they say a month, you actually got 2 weeks for one person. You know, if that's what you bought. It says, 6 months, where you actually got 3 months. You know, if it's for however many people, whatever. It depends on what you're buying. There's different things, but just you want to make sure you cut that in half, whatever. So that way you're not fooling yourself, unless you want to slowly starve yourself. Yeah, you survive, but you're slowly starving yourself too at the same time. And like I said, it's not for everybody, but it's something to be aware of. because you got the energy bars, which Now, one thing I recommend though is getting is definitely as a sprout growing the microgreens, organic sprouts and microgreens. You give a set of 4 of these, and it's not that bad. And you get sprouting seeds, and this is through Patriot Supply. And anyways, uh, but what I did, I bought a couple of them, 2 sets. So I have actually 8 trays of seeds. The reason why is put the seeds in there, put the water, put up the windowsill, whatever. And then a couple of days later, if you time it out, you know, we could do another set. You know what I mean? If you time it out, that way you have constantly had greens, that you can add into your soups or just eat them like they are, the sprouting seeds, microgreens, So, but I was going to, throw them in soups and stuff like that. But you always had, the greens, extra vitamins and minerals, which is important when it comes down to survival stuff. This is another company. Like I said, I'm not related to any of these companies or nothing. This is just, the things I found out, what I bought for me. It's something you can check out. You know, but it's American natural superfood. Anyway, it's got all kinds of like, supplement facts and everything, all that. If you can read that. But anyways, but yeah, there's a caution, it does say, about Dollar Tree, says, as not to be using products, especially if you're pregnant, nursing, anticipated surgery, taking medication on a regular basis. That does have a little warnings on it, you know what I mean, down there. So, but anyways, but like I said, you can, if you want to, you can buy, some of this stuff, if you want to. Like I said, ain't nothing wrong with a shake, with something, give you all supplements and save you from eating that day. That's another day's worth of food. I know a lot of people said, well, I'll just buy ramen noodles and live off of that. Well, you can, but, it's a lot of sodium, a lot of salt. There's not a whole lot of nutrition in noodles that I know of. A lot of salt and sodium, which, like I said, you're going to use a lot of water to cook them, and then you're going to use a lot of water to, because you make you thirsty, you're going to drink more water. So in a survival situation, not very ideal. It'll get you by for a little while, but you're gonna run out of water, and you're gonna become weak if you're not getting all the other nutrition. Your body requires so many different kinds of nutrition and stuff. And anyway, I'll move to the next thing. Another company, Mountain House. Yeah, yes, you can get some of this. You could, I got that at Walmart, the campus section. I think they have some at Rural King. I'm not sure. It's been a little while since I've been there, but I do believe they have that there. But you can shop around, look online, Google, and Mountain House. Like I said, Mountain House, they got good products, and you can check on the shelf life on it too, and everything, how long it lasts. Everything's got a shelf life. Just like the bars I was showing you, survival shots, everything. The bars, everything's got shelf life. So whenever you're looking into products and buying things, keep it in mind. You got 5 year, 10 year, 20 years, whatever, shelf lives for these products. And then I'm gonna go ahead and move to the next company. This one here to me is more high end, but they carry all kinds of stuff that you don't get from like my Patriot Supply or SOS or any of these other companies that I was talking about. Um, they actually have like exotic kind of like stuff, but anyways, it's freeze dry wholesaler, freeze dry wholesalers. See that right there? Anyways, um, you might have seen this on one of the other videos maybe, but yeah, man, they got like all kinds of stuff. They got steaks, lobsters, all kinds of stuff. Different kinds of venison and meats, hams, things. So that's something else you might, if you got the money, you know what I mean. Like I said, for me, I had to, get it on a good deal with it. Like they get you deals out there. You buy 2, get 1 free or whatever, something like that. And I bought it through that. I got a good deals on that. So, that's the thing. Like anything, we're all prepping and shopping, or whatever. Just try to hit the deals. But I'm hoping this helps. It kind of gives you some other options or some other things to look at. Like I said, if you was able to take a survival shot one day here, or maybe a drink, one of them drinks, for a day. That saves you a day of food, and that adds up if you've done that. Don't do it all the time, but one and maybe every other week and do it again. Well, next thing you got 7 extra days worth of food, which is a lot. Especially if whatever happens, happens. Uh, I hope you liked the video. Like, subscribe, share. God bless.